Keysmaster here. Welcome to Star Citizen Spaceflight 101. That screen you just saw opened is the console screen. It can be accessed with the tilde key left the 1 without using the space. There are various commands you may wish to enter there, such as R, tab, 1, I like 2, you can go up to 4. And there you can see your frames per second, the session ID and shard ID you're using, and the server time and universe time. Note that the universe time runs 6 times faster than server time, and is a reflection of how fast the sun may be seen as a planet spins or rotates. BWN is the other important factor you want to observe. If you think the server crashed, look for this number. If it stops at below 0.05 for a period of time, it is likely the server has crashed. Also, a network failure can cause this figure to stop. The rest of it is self-explanatory for the most part, or not important. You can gain much more information with 4 to observe GPU and CPU performance. I'm going to stick to 2. Did it not update? I did not hit enter. Stick to 2 just for the minimal requirements of reporting bugs on the issue council. That is, the session ID and the shared ID. Depending on where you start in the game, you could end up in a hab like what I just left, which is on a station, such as her L2 Faithful Dream Station, or you can end up in a similar hab on a landing zone. The important thing to note is that no matter where you wake up, you will always have a docking port, and stations like this one, it will be labeled security. And a docking port will have, it's not a docking port, it's more of a space dock, will have an ASOP console. It lists as vehicle retrieval, but this could be for air spaceships or ground vehicles only. I'm going to pull out an Aurora MR as this is a common starter vehicle for pledged ships. You note that it says pad 04, but in case you forget, you get a marker showing you that you're on pad 04. The elevators here by the security center only go to pads and hangars. They do not transit to other areas of the station. To scroll through this, you can hold F and scroll up and down with the mouse wheel, or hold F and interact with this bar if you don't like it zooming in and out. Releasing F lets go of the interaction command. Interactions occur wherever you see a space that you think you might be able to interact with. There is an option that I turned on, but is off by default, that allows you to see interactions automatically, whether you have to toggle to interact them or have them always shown. Highlighting mode, always shown. Toggle means you don't have to hold the F. I still prefer to hold the F whenever I want to. That bottom button here opens the elevator in the current location. If it's stopped at a location, you can exit. Now, you can control walking with the mouse wheel, and W moves you forward. A and D left and right. The Q and E don't do anything unless you go prone. This is a squat with control, and F4 allows you to look at yourself from external view. While holding Z, I can pivot it around. But to go prone, you gotta hit X. And when you're in X, you can use Q and E to roll over. You can hit Control to go back to crouching, or Control again to stand up. We're going to cover the basics of walking to the ship. You can scroll up to increase your speed. Down. You can also sprint with left shift while holding it. Now, you can't stay on the pad for very long because you have an internal timer and they will store your ship if you don't hurry up and get off the pad. So holding F, I just interacted with the door, and because I have the highlights turned on, you can see it without holding F if it's interactable. This I find exceptionally helpful for unknown interactable items such as the new loot chests that you could find items inside. To start up your ship, you can hit R, which is to start up the systems and everything else all at once, or you can just turn on power.
Welcome to Robert Space Industries. Enjoy the ride. System check.
U key will also turn
System
power off. You can turn on engines, but as you can see here, the engines do not really, well, they do turn on, I guess, but you can't flight, you can't control them. So you still need to turn power on.
Welcome.
And with power on, you can still turn engines off. If you're above the ground just a little bit and turn off the engines, the pads do have gravity. It is an artificial gravity. And there is one other setting I have changed from default that is kind of important to mention. It is called Proximity Assist. I set it to no. What happens here with Proximity Assist turned on is bigger ships often have a hard time taking off of gravity. But as you approach a surface, your thrusters tend to weaken a little bit to help you not move so quickly near the object you're flying. If you're flying near asteroids, for example, you don't want to move too quickly or run into it, that proximity assist is turned on to help protect you. But for advanced flyers who might try to fly into the back end of a bigger ship with a very limited space, that proximity assist can cause your ship to suddenly fall once it enters the bigger ship's hangar deck. So we like to keep it off. In flight, your Q and E will still roll.
Thank you, and please visit again.
You're welcome. W moves you forward, but letting go of W, let me turn off cruise control. It's the default mechanism for me. The key assigned for cruise control is C. If you turn it on, you see that little arrow on the left there. Turn it off, and your speed drops. The in-flight control system, known as IFCS, will move you at the speed set by that marker. If you scroll the mouse wheel up or down, it will attempt to adjust your speed to match that using thrust. Once your speed matches that, thrusters are no longer needed to maintain that speed while in zero-G environments. You can see the thrusters are being used as I change direction, because IFCS will try to correct my heading as seen by that little marker there. It will try to correct my heading to point forward at all times. Holding left Alt and C, clicking C, will turn coupled mode off. In decoupled mode, IFCS no longer tries to change your speed to match your chosen direction or your speed limiter setting. But if you lower your speed limiter below your current speed, it will slow you down, but you'll still be moving in the same direction. So understanding coupled mode and decoupled mode does not necessarily mean you are free to drift around in space, but it does help reduce the use of thrusters and save hydrogen fuel. Fuel types: there's quantum fuel and hydrogen fuel. Hydrogen is used by thrusters to navigate and to propel you forward or stop you. Quantum fuel is used for travel between greater distances. You can click this button here to see where you're located and zoom out with the mouse to see what's around you, and even set a destination. Every planet except for Microtech has a L1 or has an L1 point and an L2 point. These points are locked in relative to the planet. If you wish, you can Google Lagrangian points. I'll have to click on one to see the spelling. Then hit enter again. So if you wish to Google Lagrangian gravity well, that will tell you more about what these are actually representing. But they are always relative to the planet they're named after. Her L3, L4, L5 are in the same orbit as Hurston, but 1 and 2 will always be on equal distance away and towards the Sun from Hurston. And the L3 will always be opposite the Sun from the planet it's named after on the same orbit. These are locations where things can be placed in orbit and not drift. But hey, Star Citizen does not exactly exhibit orbital mechanics. I'll explain that more later. Right now, we have a course set using the set route. If I clear that, you don't see that mark anymore. By hitting B once, you turn on the quantum drive, the driver, the spooler. It will calibrate as you point to a location. But there are many other locations available you can point to. You cannot jump until calibration is full. This can be confusing if you do not know how much fuel you'll have and how much it will take to get there, as you may find some marker that is too far away and not know it. The obstructions are red, but the ones that you may run out of fuel for may not be so. For this reason, it is always advisable to see required fuel 0 to actually set a route so you can see how much fuel you need. This also reduces the clutter of points all over the map, all over the space. And you may jump to any location. Before I jump, I'm going to explain what this is. There are two types of minables in the game. The ship minable and the FPS minable. But they have recently modified FPS to include a ground vehicle called the ROC, R-O-C, which is an acronym that you can look up if you're interested. The ship minables all have this boulder looking icon. An FPS minable will have a gem icon. It looks like a diamond, like what you see there on the surface of this asteroid. That gem, though, we call it a gem because it could be one of 3 types of minerals currently, but diamonds, unfortunately, are not harvested from the gem icons. They're harvested from asteroids such as this, or rocks on planet and moon surfaces that have the same symbol. If I hit V, as in Victor, I could scan this rock. Now currently nothing is being shown, but by holding left mouse down, you can see the scan starts to roll in some information about the asteroid. To a mining ship, they could switch to mining mode and receive a lot more useful information rather than using a ship scanner. It would seem appropriate that you should be able to scan the gem that's on the asteroid, but it does not actually work in that manner. In this case, you can see it's on the other side, and if we try to get in close, we still cannot scan it. You would have to get out and take your multi-tool, which is a hand-carried mining tool or other device depending on which attachment you have, and actually use the scanner on the multi-tool. You see my radar in the bottom? It kind of gives me an indication of what direction I need to turn to reach my quantum drive marker. So if you can't find this little arrow because of its color, I'll show you that again. As you move around, you got this little arrow on the screen. If it ends up hiding inside one of your displays and you can't see it, use your radar. Some ships have the radar way up here in the top, and the way the marker works is kind of weird. As you can see, the radar screen itself has to be pointing to remove the line. It's not the point of the ship. When the point of the ship is here, there's a line. So that line is relative to the center of the radar screen. Engage quantum drive and activate spooler are 2 different terms. Hitting B activates the quantum drive spooler. To engage, you have to hold B for a second.
Quantum drive is now on. Landing gear raised.
If you forget to raise your landing gear, it will raise it for you. Also, external doors will be closed for you. You may exit the seat with a Y. The default is to hold Y, but there is an option to not have to hold it. You would only hold it for half a second. And move about your ship if you have an internal structure to move about. The Mustang Alpha is another starting vessel that will not have a place for you to move about. In fact, if you exit the ship from a Mustang, exiting the seat with Y will exit the ship while you're in quantum drive, and you will be left behind. This is a feature, as I put it, that I am against critically, as Y should be to exit the seat only and not to exit the ship in conjunction with that. You may abort a jump by holding B for a half a second. And as you can see, I still have some distance to complete my route. But when a planet reaches about the size of your quantum drive HUD, you're actually able to pick another location within the planet and get a route directly to it. Whereas if I was too far out, the route would include a jump to the planet and then to the moon. So this has a benefit of saving you a little bit of fuel and preventing you from going all the way up on the planet, having to load more assets than you need, and risk running into a confrontation with other ships that might be in orbit near the planet waiting for you. The moons generally have lower gravity than the planets. If you hold B,
Quantum drive is now on.
And instead of engaging quantum drive, the name of your destination disappears. What you need to do is steer away to reset your calibration to 0, and then steer back to calibrate again. Every planet has these little markers around it called OM. OM in some number. Every moon has them too. 2 and 1 are reserved for the poles. And in this case, my orientation can be corrected to give me presumably a north pole and a south pole. As the planet spins, those markers stay relative to the same point and they don't roll around. But the other markers, 3, 4, 5, however many there are, will stay in geosynchronous orbit with the surface. So if you tell somebody that you are at OM4 and then you went straight down, they can easily find you following a path from that. Well, relatively. Depends on how straight down they actually fly. Another option is to pick a location on the surface. If the location has dashed lines, then it is actually on the other side of the planet. As you can see here, all the locations appear to be on the other side of the planet from where we're at. What this could mean, in this case, is you can expect to be in darkness as you descend onto the planet, or the moon. This is a moon.
Quantum drive is now on.
A lot of people tend to say planet when they really mean moon, just as they tend to say sun. Well, the sun is actually accurate, but they refer to solar, and solar references the sun called sol. So names and terminology may vary depending on.
Quantum drive is now on.
If you turn off quantum drive, you can't see any markers. You don't know where the places you are going. So many of us will still spool up quantum drive just to see where the item is, how far away it is, and then fly just the same. I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to turn quantum drive off. I want to talk a little bit about when flight controls are altered. Here, if you scroll up and down while scanning, it changes the radius of your scan, effectively the concentration. It does not raise or lower my speed. So if you were flying at a high speed and you got a scan on to look at a ship from a distance and get information, or an asteroid, know that you can't slow down other than turning off cruise control. The same happens in mining mode for ships that can mine. So we're going to look for a location that is close to us, because that's where we drop down to. It will warn you if you're going too far away to stay calibrated. Now if you hit L, you'll turn on your headlights, but they don't really help you much high above the ground. So you can tab to do a ping with your radar, and that gives you a view of where objects such as asteroids and other ships might be, but also briefly it will show you where the ground is in case you're running into a mountain. This new radar was introduced in 3.14, as well as the new kinds of icons shown, these tiny little cubes. They did not have those before. Instead, they had a big old cube that covered a lot of space and could blind you in some ways. So they made them smaller, and they still give you relative distances. Let's see. I'm going to hit space to move up. Control moves down. And we're looking for that base we were flying to over here. You know, even at 14, 17 meters, my lights don't shine on it very well. I'm going to slow my speed down and use cruise control. You gotta be pretty close. You can see the mountain. I'm going to stop here. If I hold Z, that gives you free look to look around. If you're using a device like the Tobii eye tracker, looking around should be built in with how you roll your head around or your eyes. For the rest of us, we can either hold Z or tap Z. Looks like somebody has been mining here lately. You don't normally see that many gems in one area. Oh, okay. This is actually not a station to land at. This is a cave. You can go exploring the caves once you find a way in. The entrance to this cave should be on foot somewhere around this mound. But these diamonds indicate that there are resources deep inside that you can go mine with a hand mining tool. There's the entrance right there. I'm going to lower landing gear, and the default key for this is
landing gear deployed.
N. And so that I don't move down too quickly, I'm going to see. I use my speed limiter. I can control that. Another way to come down softly is to actually reduce your thrust limiter. By holding the right Alt, you can scroll down, and if you scroll just enough, you'll lose the thrust that you need to sustain altitude. So you can come down gently that way as well. And the benefit to this is you can still push up if you wanted to. So you can let it drift down a little, push up a little. Pushing up quickly is okay. You just don't want to come down quickly. If you're trying to get a nice little soft spot to land close to where you want to go. The thing you want to remember though is always restore your thrust to maximum before you stop. You can shut down the engines with the I.
Engines are off.
By leaving your power on, you keep your shields energized. This is especially important if your ship is going to be out in the open like this. Y will exit your seat by holding it. If you elect to turn off that option to require holding down the Y so that you can just press it, then you can use another feature called the emergency exit seat, which is left shift and U. The same button for powering off your ship. With the left shift, it will power off your ship and exit the seat all in the one command. Remember, I have highlights turned on, so that's why the window is turning green, or the seat turns green, is to remind me that I can hold F and interact with it. Now I'm going to open the door and just walk right out. You can use the exit and run an animation to leave. That clicking you hear is to tell me that there's a survivability timer running. You see, it's very hot out here, and I don't have the right kind of protective environmental suit to keep me cool inside this environment, even though it's nighttime. I'm going to slow down just to demonstrate what these caves look like real quick, as walking around is part of your basics for maneuvering. And if you start mining, you're going to need your multi-tool with a mining attachment. It's called the orbit mining attachment. You're going to need to bring that down here so you can scan around looking for rocks that you can mine. You can't just mine the walls, okay? You have to find an actual mineable node, as seen with the gem icon from a ship. With the mining tool, instead the whole node will light up orange when you point at it. So, caves got a lot of dark areas and some pretty mysteriously dangerous areas and cliff ledges you gotta watch out for. And in low gravity environments, or if you end up in prison, you'll find that they can be very awkward jumping large distances and trying to run around. Yes, the game has a prison system. And here I'm having difficulty walking past a step. So you can try jumping, you can try squatting, crawling, or any other feature of movement to get past objects that the character can't walk through. When you get back in your ship, if you're low on oxygen, or if your temperature is too high or too low, this is your internal body temperature I'm talking about. If you stay outside long enough, you'll see an internal body temperature. It would be right here. This is your interaction wheel. If you hold F and right click, you get a wheel that gives you all kinds of options to explore. Some of them are considered favorites because I've used them before. They're not part of the default menu. Once you use an action, like an emote, it can be loaded into the default menu if you have a slot available. But this action wheel also reveals a lot of other status about the character. Your food, your hydration, your blood drug level. Injuries would be in red or yellow here. Your internal body temperature, oxygen supply for your helmet, and your health. These statuses may appear on your screen automatically if they are outside of normal conditions. Such as when you're injured, your health may appear. When you start to get thirsty or hungry, those icons may appear. Hydration tends to drain much faster than food. While exiting the planet, you can use quantum drive, but you may have noticed that at some point, every marker was red. I'm going to back up a bit to get to that point again. This is because every moon and planet has an altitude requirement. Before you can actually engage in quantum drive. And I'll show you how it behaves if your altitude is not high enough. So here, everything is red. That's obstructed because the planet is in the way. This one says exit atmosphere, and this could be the case even if there's no atmosphere. You just have to get up high enough. But let's say you get up high enough for one of these. There are other points on the planet that you theoretically can jump to, but what you'll find is that as you engage, it will just go dark, and you'll have to try it again, and if you engage, it will still go dark. It will not jump. It's because you still need to get to a higher elevation. It just doesn't tell you that. It drives me bonkers. It makes a lot of people think it's bugged.
Drive is now on.
So just go up to a higher elevation.
Landing gear raised.
The OM points and any of these other markers will be fine. An HDMS is material storage. If you look at it in the map, you can get more details about the name. I can double click on a moon like that to zoom in and center on it. That's a mining station, not material storage. Oh, it's wrong. I'm thinking hazmat. Hazardous material storage or something like that. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, it's a mining station from Hurston Dynamics. Mining stations are useful if you do trade. Let's set the route on that. If you want to do trade where you pay to buy materials and then haul it to the planet to sell, you can get a little bit of profit that way.
Drive is now on.
Depending on the difference of the material prices. In which case, Laranite and Orison are your ideal materials to trade. There are also places where you can sell gems if you've mined them with a rock or hand mining. So if you went to that cave that I showed you
Drive is now on.
and got some gems, you can take them here. This is all covered in your basic flight video because I'm actually covering navigation to facilities on the planet or moon surface, such as keeping your quantum drive on so you can see where you're going. Just to discuss some of the other areas of worthy note here at these planets. A mining station has a type of landing pad called the keybinds pad, or Platinum Bay, as you can see here on the comms panel. Those are for ground vehicles and very, very tiny ships. The Aurora is too big, so if I were to request landing, even though I see these big pads here, these big pads for ships, Platinum Bay has nothing to do with those. Hit F11 to open the comms section of your mobi-glass. It's the same as if you hit F1 and opened it from here and then went down here to Comlink. From here, click Friends, and the top item is usually the station or facility you want to land with, what we call ATC, Air Traffic Control. You click on that, and if the sound is working, they'll come back and tell you something like your ship is too large or something like that. It doesn't look like the ATC voice is working in this instance. If you're trying to land on a pad that requires permission, I'm going to turn my headlights off. You get a notification on screen though, so it doesn't matter if you hear them or not. Lower landing gear, come close to the pad. You can use Z to look around. Oh, now you see there's a timer. They'll impound you, and you can't recall your vehicle from here because there's no pad that they can spawn it on. So you want to move your vehicle out of the way and either put it on the ground directly or use one of these pads. I will reserve these paths for ships that have loading ramps, and they may wish to drive vehicles up or down on them, where it's nice and flat with the ground. If you're coming here to trade or sell gems, there are a couple of noteworthy structures. The building with this kind of sign or lit structure is generally the building called storage, and you can go in there, use a terminal for trade. This one is habitation, so that's not actually attached to the building, it's just sitting next to it. You want one that's attached to the building. There it is. And it has to be this reddish orange color. If it's attached to the building, you can see it will be called storage. Holding F and zooming in like that, or holding left alternate and zooming in. If you let go of the alternate, the zoom stays. F just gives you a little more zoom. But as soon as you let go, it returns back. So storage is where you do your trade. The other building to note, the PB building has a sign but is blue. Just as the PB color is blue.
Warning, you are blocking an active flight lane. Please vacate the vicinity.
Sound working. Or was delayed. There are other building types that you might find, structures, mining equipment, like those. They tend to populate around the mining building. And this building currently has no function at the moment, but maybe later you might get a job or something where you come here to work here. Or when you build your own habitats, you'll have a building like that. Yes, one day we would be able to build our own colonies. And so all those other buildings will actually have functions. There's a bug right now which prevents you from being able to refuel and repair, but you're supposed to be able to refuel and repair from these pads. Use the vehicle maintenance. They're all redded out as if it's not allowed. Like if you had a crime stat or you didn't get permission to land, they wouldn't be allowed. Yes, landing permission. We'll cover that in our next stop. First we need to get up and away. When you're in atmosphere, it can be difficult to turn sometimes. We do not have flight control structures yet, like ailerons and rudders and such. So everything is by thrusters. I don't want to go to Ida. I want to go to the station that is in low orbit of Hurston. Every planet has a landing zone. That is what you see here with the dot inside a circle. That's like a major city for the planet. And above that planet in low orbit is a station. Currently, this station is linked to the landing zone for the purposes of local inventory and accessing your ships. So if you land on the station and take a different ship down to Lorville, you could take whatever ship you put on that station and pull it out at Lorville. They're one and the same. But there are reasons to actually go down to the Lorville surface, and that is to walk around and explore the shops. So we're going to hit Everest Harbor first, just to show you landing at a station and getting permissions in zero-G environment.
Bottom drive is now on. Landing gear raised.
Note that when you engage quantum drive, your your relative speed indicator actually drops to 0. So I usually turn off cruise control before I jump so that it doesn't try to start accelerating right away when I get here. From here, sometimes you end up jumping several hundred meters from the station and you have to jump again. But in this case, I'm right next to it. Pointing in the right direction, I'll go forward. If you hold left shift, you engage boosters to accelerate faster, but it won't boost any faster if you're already at the speed indicator, the maximum speed velocity you set. You notice that slowing down is a lot less different, a lot less like the velocity change, a lot less acceleration slowing down than speeding up. When you get that notice to call ATC, that is the chance to tell you that you're close enough and you can call them.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
That is usually their response. Move down here, put down your landing gear, because every time you plan to travel, landing gear will go up automatically. Control your speed when coming into land. Remember, out here there's no gravity. As you approach, you'll see a little field, an animated grid. Within that grid, you can actually request fuel and maintenance, or if you hold in for half a second, you engage an auto land. This auto land on pads is usually not a problem, but in hangars with large ships, it could
Landing
be
complete. Have a pleasant stay.
disastrous, as it may try to rotate your ship in a way it doesn't have room for. For example, the Lorville hangars with the Freelancer Max will definitely jam your ship up in the corner. So here, hit F1 to open the mobi-glass. Hit the maintenance and just select all the white options. If your ship is damaged, maintenance will get it repaired. If you lost a weapon because you lost a wing, currently maintenance may not restore the weapon, in which case you may wish to just destroy your ship and claim it. If you try to do maintenance before you destroy your ship, you're likely going to lose that weapon permanently and have to go buy one. So know the status of your ship if you took damage before you try to get repairs. Make sure you have all your weapons and gear on you before you try to get repairs. Now let's go down to Lorville. I could go into the station, but we'll get a chance to do that later. In fact, you'll be visiting stations as you explore. There's an elevator that you can walk to from the landing pad. And just as we started looking for an ASOP terminal to retrieve our ship,
Thank you, and please visit again.
that hangar elevator will take you to an ASOP terminal that you can store your ship. And if your ship stays out there for too long, they will be stored for you automatically. But you want to put it away sooner rather than later so that other players can't destroy it and ram into it and cause you problems. Here you'll notice that among all these different icons, there's one that looks like a home base when you're not pointing at it. That is always your landing zone marker. All the other hexes are just destinations on the surface of the planet.
Bottom drive is now on. Landing gear raised.
Lorville, R-Corp, and Microtech are planets that have breathable atmospheres. Crusader has a breathable atmosphere but no ground surface. It is a gas giant.
Bottom drive is
So the landing zone in Crusader is actually a floating structure. It has thrusters and navigates like a ship. Here in Lorville, you're going to see this big tall structure, and it's got an angle. You want to follow that ramp down and look for these lights here. These are signs that tell you where the landing port is. If you try to fly in under them, you're likely to hit a restricted zone, and it will take over control of your ship and try to fly you back out, but it could also mess up very badly, prevents you from ever controlling your ship again, or even crash your ship into the ground. So the best bet is to always aim for coming down in the middle of that rectangular grid, and this is only for Lorville, because you don't see the whole city looks different in other landing zones. The atmosphere is thick enough that it will prevent you from flying at maximum speed. This is a wind drag. And you gain more control as you slow down a little bit below your terminal velocity. Now I'm close enough to request landing permissions. F11. Select the comms. I hit F11 to close.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
Don't forget landing gear. You're looking for
Landing
a
gear
marker like
deployed.
that. I'll turn on my lights just to see the ground around me a little better. That's the L key. If you're out walking around on foot, you use the T for torch, because the British like to carry a torch, not a flashlight. I do not mean any intended insult to that. It's just a difference in how we use language between the US and Britain. I'll turn lighting off. Now this nose down approach to landing is very beginner-like. Optionally, if you want to practice more sophisticated landings, or if you're flying in with a big ship, you may want to try the external view. Hold F4 while scrolling to change your zoom. Hold Z while moving around, and you can adjust your viewpoint. And if you hold the right Alt and scroll down a little bit, you'll start the drift, but now you're also facing wind. So you have to be aware of that while you're landing. The wind could cause you to drift too. And in this case, you can see the grid is more angled this way. Adjust your pitch. Remember, I'm coming down with reduced thrust, so it can't sustain my gravity, my weight. I'll raise the thrust back up.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
Do some maintenance services to make sure that I always end up with a fuel tank when I'm gone, when I return. Now, if you turn off your engines, you cannot see your fuel filling up. But you don't have to wait. You could leave your ship while it's filling. It will still fill. I'm going to hit Shift U because I have turned off the feature to require holding Y. That is like way down here on the bottom. Maybe it got moved up because they added more features. Right there. I hit no to that one. That's so that when I hold left shift on U,
System off.
it turns off power and exits the seat all in one sweep. And I would do this anytime I'm going to store the ship. Now I'm going to use the animation today, so I don't have to hit anything or move anything while this is happening. I just wait till it's over, and then I gain control again. So Lorville is one of the landing zones you may choose to start at, and is popular because Hurston here is in the middle of all the other planets in the Stanton system. If you missed the elevator, just call it again. Using your hold F to interact, you can click on buttons. This flight tour is going to include a little bit of demo here in Lorville because we have a way for you to rent ships that you do not otherwise own. The Vantage rental kiosk. Not all the ships available in the game are listed here, but you could sort or group by manufacturer. This one is a good one for package deliveries if you're doing some starting out basic jobs to deliver packages, or if you chose a Mustang Alpha and you don't have room on the ship to be able to carry packages, you can rent one of these, the Avenger Titan, when you have a little money. Ooh, your Mustang Alpha has a bad graphic in this. It's just taking time to load because I don't fly a Mustang Alpha. But that's just an example of some ships you can rent if you don't have what you need for the kind of mission you want to do.
We're sorry. You exceeded the allotted time to depart. We will have to return your ship to storage.
That's the thing I wanted to mention before, the timer on storage.
Initiating ship storage procedure. For your safety, please vacate the area.
If you're
Thank you for
standing
your call.
in your ship or close to it, it will zap you into the building interior close to the ASOP terminals or close to the elevators. But it will send
Initiating
you
ship
inside.
storage procedure. For your safety, please vacate the area.
Sometimes ship storage actually fails and your ship just sits out there for a while. So you may want to just store your ship anyway so you know the status of your ship at all times. By hitting store. See, the ship is not on the screen anymore. Ships can only be retrieved from the location they're at. So my other ships are at her L2 where we started. I can't retrieve them. If I claim a ship, it will lose anything that it might be carrying on its cargo or objects that I just left lying around on the ship, because it will be restored back to the default state. Equipment and upgrades that you install on a ship will still be installed when you claim it. You have to store a ship before you can edit the vehicle loadout manager. By default, the last ship you flew will show, but it'll be read-only. Just select it again, and you'll be able to edit the loadout. In this case, the cooler required is size 1, and I don't have any other size 1 coolers in Lorville. In fact, I don't have any equipment in Lorville that I can stick on this ship. Except maybe attrition repeater that I bought for my prospector, and an XJ1 that I took off the prospector momentarily. There is a ship store here called New Deal, so when you earn enough money, you can buy more ships in game. Rentals are good, try before you buy.
Welcome to New Deal Shipyard,
But you
the
cannot
finest purveyor of pre-owned vessels in all
put
of Lorville.
components or swap out components on a rental. You have to own the ship to swap out components. I'm going to walk a little faster here. You could buy a ship by interacting with it. See the buy option over there. And that doesn't buy it right away, it just gives you more information, and then you can confirm your purchase. Or if you go inside, you can use this kiosk right here and browse all the ships they have, even the ones that aren't shown on the floor. And this is where you might find, say, a missed Freelancer or a Freelancer Max. And I'm going to zoom out, zoom in, and try to get this model to finish loading in. So, the Freelancer looks similar to the Max, but the Max has more storage inside. And there are other ships to browse. You can look at the prices. The important thing there is to note,
Hey, welcome to the New Deal.
what prices you might be aiming to buy a ship. If you just want to walk around the floor and look at some of them, you can do that too to get an idea compared to size. This is a popular one for cargo, but the cargo elevator, it's not a ramp, it's an elevator. So when it comes down on the ground, if you're not on a flat, smooth surface like a landing pad, you may have some difficulties. It's for this reason why I generally don't use the landing pads at mining outposts if I have a small ship that could safely land on the dirt. Oh yeah, you can go in and walk around these ships too. I'll leave that up for you to explore. You can't fly them though, not while they're here on display models. So, to complete this little tutorial on flight basics, we should talk about flight gear. Things you might need to take with you. If you hit I, you can open your inventory screen and it shows what I have locally here at Lorville and the orbiting station above it. That's just the armor. I have so much here that it can't all fit on one screen. And I have to hit this little arrow to see the next one. Looks like we have a player walking around us. I'm giving a demo and making a video. So what you do here, you're showing off to the world who sees this video. Yep, we went over rolls and prone earlier. Note he's wearing a backpack that gives him more storage space, and he can carry 2 weapons on that backpack. If you're mining, you're going to want to get something like that to help you mine. Well, we were going to talk about that anyway. Equipment. If you want to purchase upgrades for your ship, you have to look for stores that have those upgrades. And these could affect your flight mechanics. This whole security area will become more functional, and later, this is customs. You're supposed to maybe lose your weapons and stuff. It'll become more functional later. But if you want to change the performance of your ship for quantum drive, maybe go faster, you can't change your thrusters. But quantum drive, you can get a faster trip across from one planet to another, for example, at the cost
Step
of
away from the
lower
platform
fuel
edge when
efficiency.
train is approaching. Now arriving from Metro Center. Stand by and let passengers disembark
These
before
trains
boarding.
and elevators are one of the ways that
Security
they can
reserves the right to search travelers
give
at
the
any
servers
time.
time to load and unload assets that you don't need to see. So you don't see a loading screen, but you can interact with and do stuff and work with your inventory. Maybe I want to take my helmet off,
Be considerate to your fellow
grab
travelers.
some fruit,
Do not block
put it in
doors.
my hand. I'm going to left click to eat it.
Next stop, Metro Center.
My food and health or hydration should all be full because I was pretty full anyway. I want to grab that helmet, put it back on. Oops, I hit undersuits. I meant armor. Whenever you die and respawn in a medical bed, they give you these items free. So I wear them all the time. Unless I'm going into
Now
an
arriving
environment
Metro
I
Center.
expect to be
Please watch your step when disembarking
fighting
the
to
train.
get through, I might put on some more heavier armor. But armor also impedes your walking and running speed, and
Trespassing or attempting to trespass on train tracks
your
is a
endurance.
serious and dangerous.
You could
Transfers
run,
to the perimeter,
run
spaceport, and
until you
industry
start
lines.
losing your breath. Lorville has a nice little map here to show you approximately where different places are. But after a while, you just kind of get to know it running around. If you spawn in Lorville, you're going to come out of the residences here. So let's walk over there just to show you what you'll see. Careful, you don't want to run and turn suddenly. But you'll come out of here when you spawn. And if you're doing package deliveries, you may have to come to a place like this to drop it off and pick it up. But you'll come down out of one of those elevators. If you think you have a fine to pay off, you can go to a terminal like this and check, make sure you don't have no fines or pay them if you do. When you come out, you're going to see outside. Ships can fly around there, you'll see them coming and going. This is not a static screen, okay? The wind picks up or sometimes it's calm. You'll see that here. Not everything is interactable. There's a lot of trash lying around. That will get a little annoying at first because you don't know what you can interact with. That's another reason I tell you maybe you want to turn on that interaction highlight. It helps you find things, especially when they create new stuff. And around Christmas, you're going to be looking around for little presents, packages to pick up. If you come into this admin office, there are terminals where you can sell a lot of stuff like your fruits, things you've picked up maybe that you don't want. Ranted dung, I don't have a use for poop, so I'm going to sell that. The loot boxes tend to give stuff up like that. That's just an example where you can sell some stuff. You can buy scrap, take it to a place that will buy it back from you. If there are such a place, I don't think we have them yet. There isn't really much here, except that we're waiting for the hospital to be implemented. I believe 3.16 should be giving us that. So this hospital will become a medical center where you can spawn out of. And if you want to go mess around in the bar, there's 2 entrances. This is one of them. There's a mission giver down there and a reclamation disposal. But you can't just walk up to them whenever you want a mission. You gotta wait until you're invited. Missions. Let's open up Mobiglass. Because you're gonna need to know how to make money to buy anything anyway. The contract manager, under General, has all your legal missions. Personal has some that may not be legal. In fact, you may have to go kill somebody. In General, you have mercenary missions where you can kill people and do it legally. Bounty hunters. When you accept a mission, it'll be listed here. If you've completed any, they'll be here. But every time you leave the server, this will get wiped. You can create a beacon if you need somebody to come pick you up or to help protect you. That gives them a marker to help find you. From here, if you look for this Tammy and Sons, you'll find plenty of stuff to shop for. The door should sense you so you don't have to interact with it. You can turn left right away and use the terminal, or you can walk around and browse and interact with the displays, see what they got, but you're not likely to see everything on display. So the terminals are usually where I go to first, unless maybe I'm shopping for clothes and I want to get a better look at what they look like. You can try them on.
Yeah.
Food and water, energy bars, MREs, and water. So, but this is not where you buy equipment for your ship. This is all personal stuff. I know I wanted to focus this video on ship flying, but it's more of an introduction to just getting started.
Transfers to the central line.
Let's see. I don't think I recall anywhere else to note down here. There's really no shops or anything on this section. So we're going to take the central line over. This is all just later when we have AI ships flying people around for like the tram gets us around here in the city. We'll have ships that take us around that we can pay. They'll each have a place to go to
Reach the platform edge when train
in each
is
station.
approaching.
Security is really in the way here. Run, 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 run. Get on. You never know when it's going to close.
Be considerate to your fellow travelers. Do not lock doors.
Now, the trains here actually
Next
operate
stop, Central
in a bit of a
Station.
triangle. You can go from the route that we took to get to the main shopping area, and then take this one to the Central Business District, or you can take a different train directly from the spaceport to the Central Business District. Well, not from the spaceport, but from where the spaceport train drops you off. Hurston, Lorville, actually, has currently, I think, the most trams or trains to learn about, to get familiar with.
Now arriving.
It has the
Central
most
Station.
complicated
Please watch your step when disembarking the train.
transportation system. You'll get to know this one as the shiny
Now arriving
gold
from
statue
Leapton
area.
Station. Stand by and let
But it's
passengers
also called
disembark before
CBT,
boarding.
or Central Business District. CBD. Did I say CBT? Wrong. So from here, if you go down the other path, the trains here will take you back closer to where you started. That's the triangle of transportation I was telling you about. I generally don't like to run up and down stairs because there's actually a hazard of injuring yourself. If you go to the right side, you'll have access to ship weapons you can buy in the HD showroom. And on the left, this place called Transfers is actually like a trade district, a TDD. And there's a mission giver that may call you to Hurston, and he'll be either down here, no, not the bottom half, he's in the top half. So you may have to run around all the way here to get to his office. If you come uninvited, oh, where is his office? I haven't been to him in a long time. You'll see a marker on the screen.
Employees are not allowed to access executive areas without prior
Unless they moved him.
Trespassing
That
is
could
a
be the case
punishable
too.
offense.
I remember there used to be an office that you can go to. These elevators, these rooms, you're like wondering, okay, what's the point? You can't get up there. Why are the doors here? Are likely going to be spawn closets. If there's a security threat in the area, troops may come out of there and start shooting from up there, or maybe jump over the glass if they could. They might have to add an animation for that. Or they come through the doorway here. I don't know. They might do something with that in the future. But this facility, this area only has a place to buy weapons. Specifically, attrition. It's the brand or name of a laser repeater. There might be other stuff there, but generally this is where you
Now
go to get
arriving from
attrition.
TISA Spaceport.
That's where
Stand by and let passengers
a lot of
disembark.
people like them because of their performance.
Next stop, TISA Spaceport.
So this is the third leg of the triangle. And in this discussion of navigating your vessels, we're going to go to a ground vehicle. I told you about the Platinum Bay pads on the moons where you can spawn ground vehicles, but you can also go to a garage at a landing zone. Lorville has garages that you can't exactly fly your ship up to, not up close, because security is pretty tight. But you can drive a vehicle out into the distance and leave it there and run back to the station to get your ship. Or, better yet, fly your ship so you can see where they'll let you land, and then run up to the garage and go get your vehicle. If it's not a windy day.
Now arriving, TISA Spaceport. Please
A
watch
windy
your
day
step
can
when
make
disembarking
running
the
and
train.
walking a little difficult. You can get knocked over a lot.
Trespassing or attempting to trespass on train tracks is a serious...
Okay, so when we came down, we went to Metro Center that way. That's how we went to the main shopping area. And customs is down here. which is your access to the ships where you spawn your ship at, right? Well, it's also your access to the garages. Nope, I'm wrong. It's just ships. I need to show you where the garages are at. I don't often go there, but I'll see it. I'll know when I see it. So coming in, I guess it's good to come from here because this is where you might be coming from anyway. You can look at a map here, and you'll see these perimeter lines. You gotta go to the Metro Center to get to them. So we'll
Hurston
get back
Security
on and
reserves
go
the
to
right
Metro
to search
Center.
travelers at any time. Next stop, Metro Center.
I just took a drink. They're not in a hurry. There's your landing zones. Not a lot of activity present around here. And that's
Now
because
arriving, Metro
you hit a
Center.
F11.
Please watch your step when
You see the
disembarking the
servers are
train.
very full. With only 23 players beside yourself.
Step away from the platform edge when train is approaching.
What did I trip on there?
Be considerate to your fellow
That's where a lot of people have
Welcome to
problems
Metro
running
Center.
around.
Transfers to the
They wanna
perimeter,
run everywhere 'cause
spaceport,
they're
and
impatient.
industry lines.
And then they get injured. Oh, this is it. So perimeter line. Last time I ran down there to all the shops. There's a list of their names. But the perimeter line is actually two lines. 1 to 3 and 4 to 6. These are all gates you can go to.
Hurston Security reserves
And
the
there
right
are
to search
actually
travelers at any time.
2 trains on each side because they go in different directions. From here, I can take the one here to go 1, 2, 3, or over here I can go 3, 2, 1.
Step away
Depending
from the
on which
platform
gate I
edge
need to
when
go
train
to,
is approaching.
maybe you're picking up a package for delivery. If you're going to gate 2, it doesn't really matter which one you take because they all go to all the gates, and gate 2 is 2 hops
Trespassing or
away, 2
attempting to
stops away
trespass on train
on
tracks
either
is a
route.
serious and dangerous offense.
Oh, missed it.
Now arriving from city gates. Stand by and let passengers
Most of
disembark
these
before boarding.
creatures walking around slowly,
Reserves the right to search travelers at
that's
any time.
AI. They're just there to make the place look pretty. They have no interactable function at the moment.
Be
Eventually,
considerate to
and I
your
hope
fellow
they do
travelers.
this,
Do not lock
they
doors.
should include force reactions on the trams, forcing you to sit down
Next
so
stop,
you would be
Lorville
more
City
stable,
Gate.
or maybe hold on to a railing. Right now, you don't really have force reactions, so you're free to stand if you want to. You don't feel the train taking off and moving. Hit Y to get up, or just simply move forward. And there's a little glitch there. It's like the server didn't recognize that my train was already getting up. Reset. Whenever I record videos and I see a bug that I know a workaround, I will generally tell you how to get around that, how to work around that bug. So for example, at the rental kiosk, you have options to rent for 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, or 30 days. Currently, there is a bug where the 3 and 30-day options are reversed. If you select 3 days, you'll rent for 30. Luckily, you'll see the price on screen for the 30-day rental before you confirm it. And if you realize there's a problem, cancel and back out. Once you confirm it, you paid that price for a 30-day rental. And you get it for 30 days. So that's just a bug that, since we discussed rental kiosks, something to watch out for. You generally don't need to rent anything for more than a day right now because of another bug. Rentals that expired have been staying in your inventory and allowing you to claim them and reuse them over and over until you do a character reset or another patch is installed and they reset everybody anyway. A character reset is not a full wipe. You keep all of your own inventory, your ships, your money, anything you earned and paid for in game, armor. All it does is reset their locations back to your home planet. And if there are any funky bugs going on with your ship, like missing images, engines or something, the Cuddy Block has that problem, a reset should fix that. If claiming your ship doesn't work. If you've got a bug on your ship that other players don't have for the same ship, and claiming your ship doesn't fix it, resetting your account will have to do it.
Now arriving, Lorville City Gate. Please watch your step when disembarking the train. Hurston security reserves the right to search travelers at
the
any
Red's gonna
time.
get gate 1. I was gonna go to gate 2, but we'll do gate 1. So we're gonna talk about ground vehicles and specifically the Rock, because it's a ground mining vehicle and you might decide to do some mining to start your basic income. You can rent a Rock from the L1 stations. If you go to the refining center at those stations. I actually own a Rock and a PTV. Now they're not located here. Well, I don't know why the Rock is at L2, but they're not located here, so I'm going to claim them. And ground vehicles have very quick delivery times because they're small and cheap. Claim the PTV. And you could expedite them, pay a little bit of money to speed up the timer. But I don't need to, because it's so quick. So we're going to grab a Rock. I've never driven my PTV yet. I bought it, but I haven't driven it yet. Another little security customs area for ground vehicles. I don't know why they don't just use the one for the ships and have an elevator that takes you to the garage. It's kind of, so here the wind is kind of affecting me. If I go to third person, you can see he's leaning from the wind. If I crouch, you can usually handle the wind a little better. To get the Rock, hold F, and driver's seat. Ground vehicles are great for getting around where the wind doesn't affect
Do
you.
not accept any packages from strangers. Ignorance is not a defense.
Just like ships, you need to hit R to power to start it up.
Systems activating.
For power specifically.
Systems on.
A rock has a mining laser, and just like a ship with a mining laser, M is in a mining mode. This laser should move around as you look,
Custom scans are mandatory.
but because we're in an armistice zone, as you can see with this icon up here, that means weapons are disabled, and that includes, whoa, this is new. Mining laser used to be disabled.
Unauthorized flora and fauna.
I think because they made mining lasers non-harmful to ships and people, that they allowed them. So move, still use W, but steering is no longer with the mouse. The mouse actually just looks around. So steering is with A and D. And because move is either on or off as you hit W, you don't have any speed control. Not yet.
Thank you, and please visit again.
We'll get that later. But because your camera is locked to the vehicle, your head doesn't bob or move about very freely. It could be very disorienting and rough to look at. So a lot of people will go to a third view like this. And this is easier to see. Now I'm going to do a hard turn to show you vehicles can slide on ice. Very common. Mud out here. You can back up. And you can rotate your camera around just simply by moving the mouse. You don't have to hold it. So this makes it easier to maintain your camera on one direction while you're shifting. Say if you're trying to load it in your ship, you can keep an eye on where it should. But unfortunately, to get to my ship and put the vehicle on the ship would mean I have to leave it out here, way out in the distance, and run all the way back. And I'm not about to do that with this video. So I would recommend you take a ship to one of the moons, the mining outposts, and use a platform to make that. Just like landing at the station, vehicles need to ask permission too. You won't be given a platform to store it if you don't ask for permission to land it. And you can't see it from third person.
Please proceed to assigned landing there.
So when I hit F4, you can't see where you're supposed to go. You can know that it's there. Drive up, you can back up or drive forward, it doesn't matter. But you have to go into the grid. And when you stop and stand still long enough, you'll say you've landed completely.
Landing complete. Have a pleasant stay.
It should say parking. Maintenance on vehicles doesn't really work, that's why it still says 1. So sometimes you may have to claim your vehicle if it's severely damaged. Shift U works here as well.
Systems off.
We'll power it down and allow you to exit. There are separate videos on mining. Other people have created them. I may have created a few. I know I did with the rock already for 314. that cover more detail about how to mine with the rock, how to locate minables. It's another bug, these transitions into walkways. It looks like the wind knocking you back, but it's just, I don't think it's related to the wind at all.
You are subject to all Hurston law and can be prosecuted for violation.
Let's go take a look at this Gray Cat PTV. I've never driven it before.
You are required to comply
One
with
of the
all
things I was hoping for is that it has room to put a box on the back, or maybe 2 or 3, for when you're doing deliveries, to help get through areas with high wind.
safety and prosperity of all of our citizens and visitors.
When you don't see a response from the terminal for a while, sometimes you may want to turn on your display to check your BWIN and make sure the server hasn't crashed. Okay, now it's saying it's out. So it got spawned after the terminal failed to get an answer. It was just a delay in the back-end communications. So we got a little buggy here. Probably one of the smallest ground vehicles of all, but I don't see any place to put a package. I might be able to put one on the other seat, but it may fling off if I'm turning too hard. Something to experiment with at some time. Very quiet. Something else I want to demonstrate with ground vehicles while I'm here is what happens if you flip them.
Thank you, and please visit again.
So I gotta find a way to flip it. Maybe actually taking it to another planet would be better. A moon. Something that's a lot more rugged. Or I might be able to find a hill here. This buggy doesn't go very fast, so it might be pretty stable just because it's slow. But generally, vehicles that used to have a really bad issue with being flipped over sideways or upside down, and you couldn't get them upside right. You couldn't push them or anything. So they just made it so that they try to upright themselves for you. That's really all there is to know about that. I would have demonstrated it, but I'm sure you'll find a place to see that yourself. Especially in lower gravity moons. That might be the difference here, is Hurston's gravity is closer to normal. Alright, I'm going to go over self-destruct and respawn. Self-destruct will not work if you're within city limits. I'm going to turn that off so that I can see if I'm in an armistice zone. You see that armistice symbol? So if I hold backspace, you cannot activate self-destruct on a vehicle. But you can exit the vehicle and kill yourself with backspace. The reason you can't use self-destruct on a vehicle is because it can be used to cause damage to other vehicles if they're in close proximity, the explosion. So I'm going to backspace here. Before I do that, I want to make sure I'm not wearing anything critical. I'm going to backspace here. Excuse me. Nothing that I don't, that I won't get back. Okay. So when you die, you get a generic flight suit and a helmet back. So I could take them off and basically get another one. Hurston's atmosphere is tolerable, but I'm still gonna kill myself. Briefly, you saw a little incapacitated sign in the bottom left corner. There is a new system now where you can actually get knocked out and still live and just be unconscious. And maybe have a timer counting down before you die if conditions warrant. Like if you're bleeding out or if the atmosphere is getting to you. But for suicide, they set it to like 1 second and then you die. Here in the medical terminal, if you hold F, you could choose where your image is going to be at. Or take a look at your current status. You would have red areas if you were damaged. And health and actual damage is different. It'd be like broken arms, or health could just be damage to the superficial scrapes and whatnot. If you hit Y, it'll get you up. The medical beds can also replenish your food and hydration up to 99%. But it should be worthy of the note, you have a medical gown. And while you do get an undersuit, you can't put it on double clicking or dragging until you take off the medical gown. You could drop it here with this the hand, but I encourage people to put them in their inventory. And you should see clothing there. You put them in your inventory, and then when you get your ship, you can take the medical gown with you on your ship and just jettison it into space, or find a loot box and stash it in there for another player to find. If you have a ship you know you're going to claim, you can put medical gowns inside that ship and claim the ship. And that's a good way to just make them not exist anymore, rather than littering the floor everywhere. So, we are back at her L2 because that is where I set... Oh, we're at Arc Warp. I forgot to reset my starting point. So here's another good thing to cover. From Arc Warp, I can reset my starting point to my home record, but that will go only back to Lorville and Everest Harbor, which is the station that hovers Lorville. So I'm going to suicide again. This is a little cheat to get back to Lorville rather than taking a ship and flying back. You cannot push an imprint out to another destination. You can only pull it to a destination you're at, or reset it back to your home planet. If you have a ship with a medical bed, you can set it to that ship, or push it back to the last station you had it set to, which is where you would spawn if your ship got destroyed. Not all ships have level 1 medical beds. For example, the Cutlass Red will not restore you if you die. But an 890 jump and a couple other ships will. So let's put on my inventory again. Take my freebie. Loot boxes are a great source of gathering more items, undersuits and helmets and weapons and just about everything. The pharmacy is a place where you can purchase medical injectables, such as the pens you can inject yourself with, or a weapon. It's not really a weapon, but it's a tool that uses these cartridges, or if you have the multi-tool, you get the attachment, the medical attachment, and the refill for that is this cartridge. Now, rather than buying them, I'm just going to go to utility, demonstrate real quick. If I hit 4 to activate my utility item, if I have 2 utility items on, like a multi-tool and the medical gun, 4 again will cycle between them. But this is the mode you use for other players. Right click to aim, and it will activate screens that help give you information. But you can't use it on yourself in this mode. So you hit B, and you can see what your status is. And if you're injured, hold the left click to start healing. This will increase your blood drug level, BDL. Hold R to holster a weapon. Sometimes that's bugged. And if it's bugged and you can't get a weapon to be put away, you can still take it out of your hands with the inventory screen. I don't have a multi-tool here to demonstrate the others. I left those at other stations. You note the last ship I flew is still sitting out there, and you got a corpse marker in case you need to get back to your corpse to recover any armor and inventory you had. I'm going to hold F and right click and dismiss my corpse marker. You're going to have up to 3 corpses at a time before they start despawning. Here's a person who suicided because they have no head, and they have to reset their account because they can't do anything without a head. You can buy food and sodas here, interact with them, but to drink, I should demonstrate that, or to eat. Drinking, you can hold the left click to drink and keep drinking, or just click once and you'll take a sip. For eating, you left click once and you eat the whole thing. But you can't do either with the helmet on. So, with the inventory off, now I can hold the left click and drink the whole bottle. If I just hit it once, it'll only drink a little bit, take a sip. And if your hydration was low, that would refill it. But the bottle's still in my hand. So you could drop it, place it. If you inspect it, it just brings it up here where you can roll it around. Place it, set it somewhere, place it in the trash can. It doesn't matter, anywhere you drop it or place it is going to despawn shortly anyway because it's empty. So it's going to have a short-lived period. That's the way they clean up assets like that. This is a player who's wearing Pembroke armor. This is an environmental suit that will help sustain the high temperatures like we saw earlier when we were visiting that cave. The Novikov suit is yellow and helps you with lower temperatures. You notice most of my ships are her L2, but I have an RSI MR stored here even though I landed in Lorville. And that is because Lorville and the station above it are connected. So we're going to go back and cover a little more flight mechanics with IFCS and uncoupled mode. There is a couple of important, let's call them bugs. Some people may call them features, but I would call them design flaws, if at least, about how IFCS works with ships in uncoupled mode. When a ship moves quickly in one direction or another, or if it accelerates or slows down, and you're just standing in the ship, you're going to feel that force reaction. Run. Get back behind the shield. You see, if I hold the minus sign over the keypad, I can see my face. Why is it spinning? The camera normally doesn't spin like that. I can also hit inventory, but I simply forgot to put on a helmet. So here's a good way to demonstrate that medical tool. You notice I took some damage. So I'll hit B to put it on myself, and then hold left. If I click left once, it just gives me a little bit, and my BDL goes up, but you can see it's going back down. I want to heal completely, so I'm going to hold it. You notice the green bar shows that I've only used about 10% of this medicine. This is handy because an injectable will force you to use the whole thing, and then the injectable is wasted. So you can get a lot more uses out of this by healing only the amount you need. Now I have a helmet on and the room isn't spinning. Because although they can create artificial gravity, they can't extend that shield dome out here for oxygen to exist. Inside the ship, even with the doors open, you have air. I'm going to demonstrate this. First, open the movie glass. Here you can get a reading of your atmosphere. It's breathable, right? I'm going to open the door. You see the atmosphere hasn't changed at all. In fact, okay, the camera affects what you can see, so I'm going to move forward and back. I need to move back a little more. I'm too close to the seat. Now I can see myself. I have a vehicle inventory with a little bit of storage space. I can put my helmet in the vehicle, and you can see I'm free to breathe. I'm not suffocating at all. And you could also interact with the local inventory when you're close to the station. So I'm going to dump that back there, because I don't need to take it with me for this demonstration. External doors and ramps will all close as soon as you hit R to power on your ship. So I will show you from here just to verify that. Hit R and everything closes. What I intend to demonstrate now,
Landing gear raised.
and what I call as a bug, is if you go to decoupled mode, okay, you can see my ship is moving in the direction of that indicator. And if I turn around 180, there's a reverse indicator.
Thank you, and please visit again.
Now I'm going to slow it down and get out of my seat. I look out the door and you can see, whoa, my ship is going forward again. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense. And I tried to submit that as a bug report, and people said, well, that's a feature. But I'm like, well, the ship should stop then, not keep going forward. That's dangerous. But now I'm still in decoupled mode. I didn't have to hit anything. As soon as I got back on my seat, I'm decoupled. So that's obviously a bug, right? I mean, I could use my strafing to change my direction. Now let's see what happens if I go to turn coupled mode on, but I turn cruise control off. Okay, now I'm going to go to decoupled with cruise control off, give myself some motion, flip it around. With cruise control off now, you can't see whether cruise control is on or off while you're decoupled. So let's see if it goes really fast. I'm going to crank that up. Get out of my seat. In this case, we're stopped. So as long as cruise control is turned off before you go to decoupled mode, the ship will revert to coupled mode, but with the cruise control still off. And I'm decoupled again. So I could set motion, get out of the seat, and the ship stops itself. You heard those engines kick in, right? But the reason I call this a bug, or at least a poorly planned feature, is that in cruise control, and I'm going to slow this back down. No, let's crank it way up. Turn decoupled mode on. Turn on cruise, and then decouple. So I got a slow speed. Let's turn it around. But cruise control is still on. It's just decoupled. As soon as I get out of the seat, it's going to kick in, and you hear it accelerating, and it's going up to the maximum speed, and force reactions are knocking me over. And I'm going at full speed. And it's decoupled when I get back into my seat. But I'm still going at the full speed because it switched to coupled mode with cruise control on. Anyway, this concludes our flight demonstration. Basic flight. There is, of course, combat, which is more of an advanced flight. You can't well, I'm far enough away from the station I can shoot here. I have energy weapons, so the capacitors will refill. Heat is generated, that's the red bar. But when the capacitors drain, they won't fire anymore. And I have to let go of the mouse button again before I can fire again. You'll note as soon as I stop firing, there's a small delay before the capacitors refill. So you can't just go out and buzz, shooting all over the place trying to get locked on your target. And if a ship is out here and you're flying towards him, you're going to keep jousting, running towards him and then try not to hit him. So decoupled mode allows you to continue flying while you flip around and aim back at him. And while he's following you, you can shoot back at him. But you need to be aware of your ship's direction. at all times, especially if you're in combat near an asteroid field, because you can run into asteroids and kill yourself. One more thing about navigation. The sun, what you see as a source of light, is not actually centered in the system. If you hit B with no route destination, you can see all the planets line up under the sun. In fact, there is a marker for Stanton. That is the sun. But that marker doesn't take you to the sun, obviously. And if you go there, what you'll see, let's see if I can get it on the map. There we go, Stanton. Can't set a route to Stanton. Not yet. Coupled, we've got some movement. Let's decouple. Let's try to set a route. Yeah, they won't let you set a route to Stanton. But you could try to get your quantum drive to lock in on it if it stops toggling long enough.
Quantum drive is now on.
You can see how far it's offset from the light source. So don't depend on the light source to represent where the sun is, and if you go to the marker, you're not going to burn up. In fact, I believe this is 0.000. If we hit F12 to turn chat back on, we can type /show location. You don't see anything that happens, but it really copied it to the clipboard. You can't use the clipboard in chat, but you can use it on the console screen. So hit Control V. Nope, that's holding it. Control V, and you got a location. I haven't tested this before, but my theory is the Stanton marker is at location 000 XYZ. XYZ, yep. So none of those are zeroed out, even the Z location. So maybe the light source is at 0 and all the planets in the Stanton marker are offset from the light source. I do not know. We're about to find out together. But if we rotate the map here, let's see, right, left click, there we go, left click and drag. They put the star in the center. But we're not going to see it in the center. In fact, if I recall, I think we're going to stop somewhere off to the edge, because quantum drive never puts you right on the target. It puts you like 25 kilometers out, so you can fly in the rest of the way. With Stanton, it's a bit more, like hundreds of kilometers, and it will still act like a blocker, preventing me from getting the Crusader. This is all part of ship flights and mechanics, because the map is a major part of your navigation, and you need to learn some of the workarounds if you can't get a marker to show up or a route to work the way you need to. We're going to demonstrate
Quantum
that.
drive is now off.
So we have no route selected. So with no route, we should see markers. I see the Stanton marker. Can't get a distance on it if it keeps moving, alternating. But Hurston is obstructed. Crusader and CRU L1, they are all like in line to the sun, but they're all obstructed. CRU L5 is not. And CRU L4 is not, which indicates that if we look back at the map, CRU L5 and CRU L4, there is something obstructing us in this range that's preventing ARC L3. And when something is obstructed, you can't set a route. But it doesn't tell you it's obstructed. You just can't set a route. Okay. Set a route to Stanton. Can't set a route there either. So if you can't get a route someplace, maybe because it's obstructed, you could pick an alternate path, such as we're going to do here. Oh, let's go to someplace that's obstructed. We want to go to Crusader, right? It's obstructed. So let's go ARC L3, can't get there, CRU L5, we can do that. We are going to drop out of quantum travel on the way to CRU L5. And the way you try to do this without wasting
Lorville is now home.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. F1 opens up. Hit Crusader and set route. And just keep setting route. And when you get a route, then you drop out of quantum drive by
Quantum
holding
drive
B.
is now off.
Now I've moved enough out of the way of Stanton that I can lock on to Crusader and finish the jump from there. And I have the fuel to do it. Let's go to Crusader so you can see what it's like flying in the thick atmosphere of a gas
Quantum
giant.
drive is now on.
And specifically, how to get out of it once you do. We're taking the Aurora because it's a small ship and is less affected by the thick atmosphere. It can accelerate and fly fairly quickly, whereas some of the bigger ships have more difficulty. You don't need to keep watching chat. I turned chat on because you have to use it, hit enter, use it to enter the command show coordinates. Oh, we were going to look at the coordinates of Stanton and we didn't. I'll leave that for you to look at again later. Show location. That's what you want to hit. And hit the tilde left of the 1. Control V and see location. We're in a positive Z now. I think we were in a positive Z before. 4954. Four, 3, 5, 7. So Z is decreasing as we get closer to Crusader. If Z is decreasing, could that be that Z is over here? Origin is 0 over here maybe? There's no way to look at this and tell where the origin is. You can just fly around and check the coordinates at different locations to see how it's affected. You can open doors while in quantum travel, which is weird. So you can throw stuff out, like medical gowns, while you're flying. Open and close doors by default does not have a keybind assigned to it, but if you can find these, you can assign a keybind to open and close doors. Assigning keybinds manually can be done here. The defaults are, as soon as you hover your mouse over the keyboard, it zooms in, and you got flight and foot to see two different layouts. And you can look at controllers, gamepads, foot, flight. But it says use advanced for joysticks, and that's where you get everything laid out here. And vehicles, cockpit, all doors. Now you see that I'm using C and Alt-C. For you, that's cruise control by default. It's because I've remapped cruise control to other buttons on my mouse. So we're here at Crusader. This is a gas giant, but it's still planet.
Auto drive is now off.
And recently they added a landing zone called Orison. The landing zone is on the other side, so it's going to be dark over there, which is really not good for showing, demonstrating what the place looks like.
Is now on.
But it is good for demonstrating how to find a landing area in the dark. Every landing zone has a landing area that does not center with the quantum travel marker. When we enter Crusader, we're going to be at an altitude of 150 kilometers. That is the altitude we need to be to be able to quantum travel away from the planet. This kind of quantum travel is curved. It actually rotates around the planet. The map is being slow to update while we do this. But it really rotates around the planet in an arch. And then is bringing me down into the atmosphere. And you saw that the atmosphere started at about 500 kilometers. We're going to go down to 150 kilometers.
Quantum drive is now off.
Let it cool down. You can see right away these red lights, that's your landing area. The Orison marker is way over there. And it's 75 kilometers away, not 25. I'm in decoupled mode, so gravity is actually pulling me down. Let's couple. Set my engines going forward. Oh, let's stop. I want to demonstrate one other aspect of flight. When gravity is affecting your ship, if you want to, alright, I am hovering in place with the IFCS. You notice the thrusters are being used to maintain my position. I will turn off engines.
Engines are off.
Now my speed gradually picks up, and the wind, the air, controls the orientation of my ship. I'm not controlling it. I can't control it. Here's my virtual joystick, or what they call VJoy. That's what they give us for mouse and keyboard users. And it's not turning the ship at all. Without engines, you have no thrusters, no maneuvering thrusters. So you could save some fuel by free fall, and we're going 139 meters per second. I turn the engines on and aim towards those markers, I can go much faster than 139 meters per second. But I will hit a terminal velocity, and the deeper you get, the thicker the atmosphere gets, the slower you're going to go. This is where I'm going to talk about boost. To hold the left shift key, you get a extra thrust. You see my thrust is only at about 80%. If I hold boost, well, the markers is just, my actual thrust is just above that 80% mark. I don't know why we can't get 100% thrust, but boost will eventually run out. And I'm going 368, 367. As soon as I lose that boost, it drops quickly. So I don't have the same thrust that I had with the boost. Now, you can increase the speed to the boost refills by hitting F6 a few times. This is where we talk about the power triangle. This power triangle controls how much of your power goes towards weapons, shields, and engines. F5 brings us towards weapons, F6 towards engines, F7 towards shields, and F8 balances it out by default. So, if I boost, you're going to see real quick how long it takes for it to replenish. If I hit F6 a bunch of times, it replenishes faster. So the power triangle really does its job in controlling where that extra energy is going. Now we're looking for an altitude of about 85 kilometers, just to get an idea of how far down we're going to go, but we're starting to see some of the other structures already. Now if you go in third person view, we'll zoom out and you can look around and see it. Look at this lattice work. You're not going to see the lights very well in the daytime, but this spidery lattice is a unique visual indicator of what your landing zone looks like. The rest of it is all a lot of straight lines and diagonals. Maybe a few hoops, structures. These other lit up areas are places that you'll be able to visit using a transit system. But you have to park your ship in this lattice work. The outer parts might be for larger ships, I think. I don't usually take large ships down there. If you hit F11 and friends, and you see you got comms here right now, if they haven't invited you to call them yet,
You are clear to launch.
your circuit will end up staying open and not actually reaching them. This, your cleared launch, is a bug that's created when I get into range of the comm circuit, and it just says
Please proceed to
something.
assigned landing bay.
It just says something randomly. My call ended up going through about the same time as their transmission coming out. So that random message that spawned is just it's a bug. Ignore it. You want them to give you a location. If you don't see a marker, cancel the transmission and try again. You might want to turn on some headlights, but you can see this is not a marker that you land on. There's no landing pad here. Okay, as you move sideways, the marker doesn't move at the same rate as the surface. that tells you that it's a little deeper, a little further down inside. And you can see here where you're actually going to land.
Landing gear deployed.
Turn lights off. I don't have VTOL on this ship, so I don't need it. VTOL is a function where engines can rotate 90 degrees to help you lift off vertical. Vertical takeoff and landing is what it stands for. Now, there are 3 ways to land here. I can hold N to land, or what I have it mapped to is on my controller, the auto land. And it centers you right within the grid. You could just hit control to move down.
We're sorry. You've exceeded the allotted time to depart. We will have to return your ship to storage.
That is irritating. I haven't been here long enough and I'm already being stored. So let's refuel. The hangar is closing. So to get the hangar to open, I need the request takeoff. I'll leave you to explore Orison on your own. You walk up there.
You are clear to launch.
You can walk left and there's an elevator take you to the ASOP terminals. I'm just going to back out of the hangar. This here is the part about Orison that frustrates a lot of people. Not everybody. Look at my radar. There's a ship coming in. Okay? It's white, not red. Not white, but cyan.
Thank you. And please visit again.
If it were red, it would be a known hostile. Right now, it's not a known hostile. If it were white, it would be a security patrol, most likely. Or around stations, you got a lot of floating gun mounts, turrets that show up white. Looks like I took a little damage, maybe from walking around running or something. Or maybe when I got out of my ship and IFCS took off at full throttle and knocked me down into the door. Could have took some damage there. So we're going to let IFCS run the ship just like we discovered before. It'll keep flying forward if cruise control is on. I don't have my medical gun on me. So that's a waste of time. I guess the last thing to demonstrate is going to be self-destruct, but I'm not going to do it here. As the sun starts to rise, this cloud tech is going to impress a lot of people. Standard lighting colors, red is port, green is starboard. We got that with planes today. It helps you tell what direction ships are coming at you, if they're coming towards you or away from you. And if it looks like you're going to have a head-on collision, the default rule is to move to green, to the right. And the ship that's coming at you would be expected to do the same, so you both miss each other. That's not a rule in game, obviously. Some ships will plow into you on purpose. But international flight rules require that you go in that direction in the event of a head-on collision to starboard. And the least maneuverable ship has the right of way, especially with spaceships, big vessels, you know, sea vessels. We need to get back up to 150,000 kilometers before we could use quantum travel. You notice up here, we're still in an armistice zone, which means you can't fire your weapons, and you can't use self-destruct. Everything is red because we're still too deep in the atmosphere. This is where we're going to pump our triangle back to engines and thrust. Boost, whatever. We'll try and give us as much increase of velocity as we can get out of it. If you're flying a mammoth ship with a heavy weight that has VTOL and you're still going very slow coming out, you might try to level out to a pitch of 0 and activate VTOL and hold space to lift up. The big reclaimer ship is one such vehicle that actually flies faster up with VTOL than it does going forward without VTOL. Okay, I'm going to hit F8 to restore the power triangle to normal. Because now, even though we're still in armistice zone, we can quantum drive. Port Olisar is connected to the city that we just left. Olisar. Port Olisar. Olisar. Interesting. Same name, right? Am I getting that name wrong? Orison. Yeah. Port Olisar and Orison. They're connected, just like the one over Lorville is.
Auto drive is now on. Auto drive is now off.
I'm in armistice still,
Thank you, and please visit again.
but it's a different armistice zone. I'm in armistice around Port Olisar. But in this armistice zone, you can shoot. The difference here is that while you can fire, if you fire on a non-red ship, one that does not have a crime stat, or one that has not already fired upon you and hit you, then you can get a crime stat. You can be punished for firing upon a friendly ship. Now I'm far enough away. Open combat is legal out here, but, well, it may be legal to fire your weapons, but you still cannot hit somebody without committing a crime. Except, notice there's no other icon up there. There's no ComSat station in the area. If you're out of range of a ComSat station, then there's no report of your crimes when you do attack somebody. So you want to make sure that you try to stay within range of ComSat stations if you're trying to be safe, or to be able to press charges against somebody who fires upon you and kills you. We're going to kill ourselves. We demonstrated suicide on foot. Now I'm going to activate self-destruct. Holding backspace.
Self-destruct activated.
You only have to hold it for like a quarter second. You hear that timer ticking away, but you can't see a timer. You don't know how long you got. ship. There it is. Oh, the ship's flying. I forgot the ship was actually moving. So you didn't get to see the explosion. But now the ship is gone, you don't see a marker anymore because it blew up. Now you're in a case where you're stranded out in space. You have EVA, which means you can, if you hit W to move forward, as soon as you let go, the suit's going to try and stop you. If you hold W and get to your maximum EVA speed, your suit's going to stop burning your EVA fuel. Eventually, we will actually have EVA fuel that you can run out of. Let go of W and the suit stops you. So, just like with the ship, space will move you up, although you see the thrust going out in all directions. Control moves you down. They're really supposed to be rotating. You could roll left and right. It doesn't roll along the axis of your body, it rolls along your forward axis. Use your mouse to turn. Why? Oh, you have to, when you're in third person view, you have to keep moving the mouse to keep turning. If you stop moving the mouse, you stop turning. Same in first person view, you have to keep moving the mouse. Up as well. You see his head bending back, looking forward. So EVA is a type of flight which fits within the purpose of this video. And there is a mission that you can accept, should you be willing to, is waiting on my package, or maybe upset with Kovalax, anything like that. You have to go to a station that has no gravity because the power is down, is broken, there was an accident. And you have to go in EVA like this and fly around and try to find that package. And then pick it up and carry it back to your ship and take it wherever they tell you to. So that's why EVA is kind of important. You can open up the inventory here, but you got no window to move it to other than grabbing the item and dropping it. That is another way to suicide. If you don't want a backspace. But now I'm out, I'm incapacitated. I'm still dying though, because I have no air. And it said that I'm going back to Orison. It shouldn't do that because I set my spawning point to Everest Harbor, back in my home planet for Lorville. Here is a bugged spawn at the station of Everest Harbor. I am no doubt probably not wearing a helmet or a flight suit. In fact, it looks like I'm lying in a bed. And the truth is, I probably am. It just hasn't loaded in yet. So before I try to get out of bed, before I hit Y, I'm going to give the station time to finish loading in. Because if you hit Y and stand on the floor that isn't there, you're going to fall through and end up out in space without a helmet. In fact, I can show you that now. Oh, Y is not working. Nothing is working. So we'll try to backspace. So now I got 3 corpses. Or maybe 4 if I miscounted. But actually 3 because you can't have 4. He'll start despawning them. What is this? My other corpse is still in the bed with me. Or somebody's corpse. That's my corpse. See the marker? So I'll just take that. That looks like somebody else left one there too. Let my local inventory load. I got that one. I got that one. I'll clean up after somebody else's mess. Got that one. If you need medical attention and you want to use the medical bed, you need to come to a check-in terminal here. You'll see the room flash at room 1, but then it disappears and slowly fades in again. As soon as you see it flash, you can leave that terminal and go to your room. The rooms are marked with signs up in the corner like that. So I can go grab another box, clean up after this patient. Take that all to space later. Well, I can't think of anything else I need to add to this video on basic flight. Somebody's running around in a gown. I'm pretty sure they're going to drop it. Or go change in the elevator. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end this video. And thank you for watching. This video is sponsored by users like you through the use of the MoTrader app, found available in your mobiGlass. During open alpha development, you may send aUEC to KeySmasher at any time you find my videos profitable or at least beneficial to your success in Star Citizen.